Hello, everyone. Welcome to this month's episode of Biz Therapy. I am super excited to have our guest here. The title of this episode is Unlock Your Unique Edge, Authenticity as Your Key Differentiator. Probably my words more so than Patrice's words. So in this LinkedIn Live, we are going to talk about the power of personal branding. This is something we are both super passionate about. I discovered Patrice a couple of years ago. We'll get more into it. But we're going to talk about practical strategies for integrating your personal experience and the essence into your brand narrative, making your story feel heard, but really to feel felt. And I think Patrice is a master at this. So I am Stacy Sussman, your host, the CRO of Rev Up Advisory, and we have our guest, Patrice. Hey, Patrice.
Hey. Greetings from Lisboa. I'm in Lisbon now, so which is completely wild to me. So what time is it where you're at?
It is about 11:47 a.m. East Coast time. So we're getting into our day. I think you're kind of sailing out of your day.
Yeah, it's almost 5 o'clock. So if it's 5 o'clock somewhere, it is 5 o'clock literally here in Lisbon. So I'm excited to be here.
Tell us a little bit about your business and yourself before we sort of get into it.
So Cliff Notes, my business kicked off in 2017, totally by accident. I never envisioned myself to be an entrepreneur. Never, to be honest, never wanted to be an entrepreneur, but here we are. So I came off of probably like a lot of people's experiences. I had a horrific startup experience. I was in media for many years in New York City. I was a producer at the Today Show. I worked at Bloomberg TV for a while. Went to a media startup, hot disaster, esteem crushing, all the kind of cliches. And from there, honestly, I was so at a crossroads in my life because I couldn't fathom going back to corporate America because I was just so disillusioned after this startup experience that I remember someone's like, well, can you make me a video? And I'm like, oh God, because I knew how to shoot video and edit from my media years. And this is right around 2017, where video was just starting to be not a nice to have, but a need to have. And so a friend was having a startup and he needed a video for his website. I had no desire. I didn't even want to do it, but I knew how to do it and I needed to make money. I had a newborn. I had a toddler at home at the time. I was like, sure. And fast forward, the next thing I know, I have a video production company in New York and we did a lot of brand videos for big brands, Lululemon, Amazon, Netflix, and then COVID shut it all down. And like so many of us, COVID was a reckoning and I had to reinvent my business in COVID. And so in 2020, I went online, and it sounds so cliche, but at the time I didn't have LinkedIn. I didn't have a public Instagram account. I didn't even know what email marketing was. But I didn't have a business. My production stopped. I was like, oh crap, like it is time to put myself out there. So from 2020 until now, my business has really shifted into now I do workshops, trainings, online courses, all centered around the power of vulnerable storytelling, growing your personal brand, and how to use video effectively for your own business, even if you've never had experience using video or if you don't think of yourself as a storyteller.
Amazing. And Patrice and I know each other in the universe of digital media, but we don't actually know each other. And just because we're talking for the first time, I've been following Patrice. I look back on my Instagram from 2020, I have a comment to you, but I honestly think I was following you around there because I remember in the pandemic, like watching your videos and just like laughing. And I feel like I know Ollie and your whole family, even though I don't, because
my poor husband. He's like British, and he did not sign up for this chaos train, but he really did. And yeah, he when you're in the pandemic, when you were confined and I was building I essentially had to, like so many of us had to build a new business from scratch. I'm like, I'm sorry, we're all living in this apartment in New York City in the pandemic. Like, sorry, you're going to be in my videos. So, you have no choice. But yeah, we've evolved since then. But yeah,
Her husband and her kids are influencers on the IG without actually wanting to be, but it's hilarious. But why I resonated so well with you is I was also at the time living in New York City. I am a parent of 2 young children and I'm running my own business. It is not a side hustle. It is a make money kind of business. And so Patrice just tells it like it is and gives us the real backstory. And I feel like you're so good at that connection to be like, if Patrice could do it, I can do it too. And I've seen a bunch of your workshops and I watch your content all the time. So super pumped to have you here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I know. And I think like just to kind of point out what you said, and look, this has taken me a lot of years to really embrace. I mean, I came from the world of storytelling, yet it is way easier to tell someone else's stories and to do, make video and stories for companies and brands and other people. But when it comes to realizing that, oh God, I need to open up my mouth now and I need to put my own self out there. It took me 3 years after starting my own business to open my mouth and share my perspective. And I came from, I won storytelling awards in the media. Like I came from that world. And yet, so I have so much empathy when I hear people tell me I can't get out of my own way. I don't know what to say. I don't know, no one's going to care. I have felt all of that and I know better. So it is definitely, it can be a real like paralyzing thing for so many people. However, the good news is that storytelling is a learnable skill. Storytelling is not something you're either born naturally or you just don't have it. So sorry, it's not available to you. It's something that you hone and craft. And the good news is you don't need to be the best storyteller in the world. You just need to be able to connect with your little pocket of the world. And that's all that you need to do.
Amazing. Yeah. I, as a business owner, also, I worked in advertising and in sales in New York. I ran sales teams and I was traveling all over the country and I was selling brands at the end of the day. I worked for big publishing companies like Rodale and IAC and Condé Nast, and we were selling these big brands. And so I understand the importance of brand and brand marketing because marketing has taken so many different directions in this day and age. But when it's talking about yourself as the business owner or the professional service, it's really a whole different ball game. And so last year I made a decision to really step out on LinkedIn and talk about conversations that I've been having behind the curtains in my Zoom, my Google Meets. And the overwhelming response has been so positive. And there's so many people, and I'll say so many women that are like, I can never get up out there and say what you say. And I'm just like, at this point, I don't really care because I've gotten the muscle of telling stories. But I get it. It's paralyzing at the beginning. So any thoughts or tips kind of how even some people can get started? Because I think people are just so afraid, whether they work at a business and they're afraid because they're not sure if the business is going to be okay with them sort of stepping out, or they own a business and they're like, what do I have to say? How am I different? How am I unique? Any thoughts?
Yeah, that's a big question. And honestly, it really depends. Well, it depends because, if you're in a company and you want to build your personal brand within your industry because maybe you have thought leadership goals, or maybe you want to get asked to be on more conferences, or you want to have a bigger name for yourself. I don't think everyone should run a business, right? Like, there are people that, can carve really awesome paths for themselves in corporate America. However, the ones that I know that are the happiest and the ones that are doing really cool things are always the ones that have a very strong personal brand. And having a personal brand within the ecosystem of a company is a little bit different than having a strong personal brand when you run your own business. So I'll stick to the running your own business because that's what both of you and I do. First of all, and this is going to maybe sound a little bit, I don't know how it's going to sound, but this is what no, but honestly, because I used to think that too. Like, oh, I don't want to say anything, or I don't want to be judged. You know what? It is a privilege. People that actually need to make something happen for themselves, people that live in oppressed parts of the world, people that live in the middle of bumble nowhere, and don't have the luxury of living on the East Coast, or living in a city, or maybe even going to college, or maybe having like upward mobility, or maybe having access because you have money. Like, there are people in this world that, I'm sorry, their only option to get out of their situation or to do bigger things is to get online. That is their bridge to a better self. So when I hear people say, I don't want to put myself out there, I'm like, that is a privileged first world problem. And so when I started to really embrace that for myself, I was like, get over yourself. Like, do you think so-and-so who like wants to get out of whatever situation he or she may be in, or the single mom that, has to make it work, they're not thinking about, I'm going to be judged. They're like, I have bigger issues to solve here. So I think number one, for people that literally have no excuse other than the fact that they're nervous because they don't want to feel embarrassed, or they don't want to feel like they said something that's going to make them look bad. It really is like kind of look at your situation and assess it. Like, can we get over ourselves? Number one. The second thing is the mission that you're doing, or the why, right? I call it like, that's why this whole driver of wanting to make a lot of money, that's not going to sustain you, right? Like, if you're in business because your only reason is to just make a ton of money, look, we all want to make a lot of money, but if that is the main driver, I'm telling you, that is not going to, for most people, that is not going to keep you going and going and going and going. So it's like, you really need to believe that what you are doing in this world is worthy of being listened to. So that was my
therapy, Patrice. This is like a therapy session.
I mean, and so I think, and I'm getting to kind of actionable tips, because I'm not trying to be too like,
No, this is important for people to understand the context.
But I think you need to have that backdrop, because I get it. Like, no one likes to be judged. We're human beings. We self-preserve. We like to be, around people that like are the same, so we can be validated. So just doing something different than your own norm, whatever that norm is, your brain actually like goes into like contraction mode, right? So we're fighting against biology every step of the way when we're doing uncomfortable things. So it's not our fault. It's not your fault. But I think if you really believe in what you're doing, and you really believe that there are people out there in this world that need your services, that need your skill set, and if they just knew you existed, and they just knew that you could help them, then their lives would be better. You have to think about the people that are sitting there that need you, that have no idea that you exist. Because at the end of the day, no one cares more about you and what you are doing than you, right? I can't tell you how many people come to me and are like, I want to speak on stage. I want to have a bigger following on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on TikTok. I want to win an award in industry. Like, I want booked out masterminds, and I want digital products. Yet, if you are unwilling and unable to make yourself uncomfortable and talk about it, and talk about, yourself, so you can be, find the commonalities between you and your audience. If you can't do that, how on earth do you expect people to galvanize around you? But really, like, what? Like, no, like, the people that you see that are like the Mel Robbins, or the people that have these like real, like Jay Shetty, like these strong personal brands, it is not because all of a sudden they decided to one day do it and they exploded. Like, they've been doing this for 20 years, and you hit an inflection point where now it's the momentum and the crescendo, and opportunities start striking you. And that happens more and more and more and more the more you show up for yourself, or show up on these platforms, in your email, however you show up. But you have to show up in 2024 in some way on social, I believe, to have a sustainable business that really connects with your customers.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think a big mission for myself was showing up on LinkedIn specifically, and that's why we're here on LinkedIn Live. And I know you do a lot of stuff on Instagram. That's where I follow you. And you can drop your handle in the chat too, so people can follow you. Also, there's
sorry, I can't sign for some reason. I can't join the chat. I was like trying to say hi to people, and I'm like, oh my god, it's asking me to connect something. So hi Stephanie, hi Monica. Like I'm trying to chat, but I can't. Oh wait, now I can chat. Hi. Okay.
So I think just showing up authentically as yourself, and I think you teach this, is not only can you, I always said, like, I'm here in a room in my office in Florida with 4 walls. If no one outside these 4 walls know about me and know about my service and know why I do this, how do I expect the business to grow and scale at the end of the day? And so I've seen the fruits of the labor, and I'm sure you have too. I started my business in 2018, so I've been at it for a while, and it has had different iterations. But I would say in 2023 and 2024, this is the best version of my business. And also, I've gotten really clear on the messaging. I still think it has work, and I've shown up on social media, and I think my audience is on LinkedIn, so that's the one channel I focused on, but I know people can be on many channels. Yes. And so I think it's so important.
Yeah. And I think too, at the end of the day, I have to remind myself too, for most of us who have businesses, we're not trying to be Amazon. We're not trying to be Netflix. We're not trying to be like, this massive entity. The world, because there's so many people online now, it's really hard to get scale like that. And your best bet is if you niche and you have your people. And so when you take the pressure off, like, you're not trying to get these massive amount of followers. Like, you're not trying to do that. Now, can that happen? Sure. But for most of the time, you can have a really, really successful business, 6 figures plus 7 figures, and not have, a crazy amount of followers on social media or a crazy amount of email subscribers. Because as long as you have a lock on your loyal community and you know exactly how you serve them and you know how to speak to them, like I always say, and this is not my quote, this is kind of, it sounds so broy, but someone said it to me years ago and it just stuck. You need 1,000 die-hard fan. That's it, just 1,000. And from that 1,000, you really can grow and get to some pretty crazy, revenue numbers, but you don't need more than 1,000. And so when you put it in that perspective, it's like, okay, that's not that scary. We all have 1,000 fanatical people that we can draw into our businesses.
I love that. And then I want to talk about, I'm going to just go on LinkedIn for a second, but we both have professional services businesses, I'll call them, at the end of the day. We're scale up companies. We're growing our business. We're figuring out our messaging, figuring out our offering. There's a lot of other people that are competitive to us to sort of doing the same thing and offering the same service at the end of the day, if you sort of look at it apples to apples. But I think the differentiator is the storytelling and the showing up. And so talk to me in brief, and I know you teach this in more detail in workshops, but talk to me about, there's so much noise. And when I go on my LinkedIn feed, everyone and everyone is saying the same thing over and over again. And so I feel like you take a unique approach where you kind of cut through the clutter and say, even though we don't, Patrice and Stacy offer the same things, although we don't, how is Patrice different than Stacy? And then some people want to work with Patrice and some people want to work with Stacy because we have a different vibe, we have a different personal brand, we have a different story. So just talk me through that narrative a little bit.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. Like, just because, first of all, there's thousands and thousands, there's tens of thousands of people that are in a similar lane as us, right? And so, yes. But there are billions of people on this planet, right? And one of the great things about being online is all of a sudden your audience is not confined to your village or to your town or to your street or to where you live. Like you can expand to places all over the place. And so the people that are showing up, the ones, this is what I believe, because you're right, it's too much noise. People don't know how to choose. So it is your responsibility to help your ideal person choose you. Now, how are people going to do that? Well, most of the time, if you think about it, people want to feel seen and validated. Like, people care about themselves first. So even when you show up in your marketing and you're telling stories, this is what I teach, and this is what, I teach people how to do. You're not telling stories for the sake of telling stories so you can talk about yourself. You're actually telling stories with a clear understanding of how that story is going to trigger the person listening to you. And not to get nerdy, but it's called neural coupling.
Get nerdy.
I feel like, especially on LinkedIn, like I definitely have more of a home on Instagram, right? And so LinkedIn, oh my God, if there was ever a place that needs more storytelling, it is LinkedIn, because it is wild how much regurgitation of like the same business Alex Hormozy quote that everyone now has taken and spun in like the same way. It's like there's no originality. And honestly, I could Google so many of the stuff I see on LinkedIn. I might as well just like Google the top 10 inspirational quotes, and like it wouldn't matter who is saying it. And so the thing that you really and this is what people struggle with, is like, how do you insert your own personal experiences, your own moments in life? Because that is the only thing that makes you unique, not what you do, not your business. I mean, it's like your perspective, where you grew up, your childhood, your viewpoint, your worldview, like all these things. That's your unique stamp. The problem is that people, it's really hard to look at your own life objectively. It's hard to say, wow, when I was 30 and this happened, that's unbelievable that I got through that. We have this automatic, it's called like inferiority psycho. I forget the word, but it's like, it's not imposter. It's something else. It's like where we actually look at our lives and think that everything we've done is normal, because we can't step outside of ourselves. So it usually requires either someone to pull stuff out of you, or it requires you to show up, start sharing stuff, being vulnerable, and seeing what gets responses from your people to get like triggers saying, oh, now I'm on to something. This is the type of narratives that I can weave in. This is actually what I'm doing. I have a personal workshop that you're actually coming to in a couple of weeks.
Yes, I am.
This is what we're doing. Because one of the biggest things I hear from people that are crazy smart, crazy good at their job, when it comes to themselves are like, I don't know what to say. I literally don't know what part of my own life or experiences or past or even business experience, I don't understand what is going to appeal to my audience. Like I think it's boring, or I think that's normal. So it really requires in like self-reflection. It requires you to kind of have a process. This is what I teach. How do you analyze that against your audience? We're not writing like, Dear Diary Netflix documentaries here, right? Like we're running a business. So the stories that we tell have to literally and figuratively move your people, and hopefully to your selling your product or your service, or to just be part of your community.
I love that. You talk about like lived experiences. I mean, you were at the Today Show. I was at Notable Brands in Media in New York. I went to every restaurant, every concert, the Bryant Park tents, like fashion shows, like, and you're just like, oh, that was normal. Like was in media in New York. Of course I went to the fashion shows at Bryant Park, but when I start telling that to people, they're like, oh my God. And so I love that, because I think you just you start to think, oh my God, this is my normal life. And there's so many people out there, like you said, in the world that don't even get a glimpse of experience some of those moments that we've come to think they're normal, because for the two of us, we both lived in New York City for a long time.
Yeah, but I think let me I think the distinction though, it's not just to say like, oh, I did this, or I went it's not just to say I did these experiences. It's like you really have to understand your audience, because you have to understand, like, okay, what kind of larger I don't want to say lesson, because not everything has to have a lesson, but like what's the meaning there. So for example, let me give you an example.
Sure.
I did a LinkedIn post recently. It's probably the first. I flirt with LinkedIn. I feel like I always get to like second base. I'm like, I'm gonna go back to first base. Like, I don't know about this. Like, I've never really gotten to like home base on LinkedIn. It's like, it's just not. It's like, again, LinkedIn is more not my comfort place, which is good for me. I'm like stretching myself. But I did a LinkedIn post last week that for me went viral. Okay,
Amazing.
and the LinkedIn post, again, first of all, it was a picture of me and Usher, right? So a little bit, look.
I saw this.
Yes, but that post could have gone many different ways. That post, like some people on LinkedIn, and look, anywhere, any social media, you could have just put a picture of me on LinkedIn and said, like, okay, you know, they was so excited to meet LinkedIn when I was, or LinkedIn, to meet Usher when I was, kind of like this sort of humble brag, like, which is very, we see this a lot on social. And
so much.
And would it have gotten like some traction? Maybe, because it's a picture of you and a famous person. However, that was not the point of that post. The point of that post actually was to showcase. I told a story about what the day that I met him, and how it was a disaster, and how he almost got me fired from my job. And the story kind of circled back to my beliefs. And having a powerful personal brand means actually living offline how you would be online. And Usher did that to me that day. And so that post got traction and like hundreds and hundreds of comments and shares, not because it was me and Usher. Who cares? And no one knows me. It's like, who cares, this chick with Usher? It's because I made that experience about my audience. So that's what people forget to do. Like, sharing stories for the sake of sharing a moment because it was cool, which is what we like, here's my award. No one cares about your award. Like, you have to remember the cardinal rule that everyone cares about themselves first and their life first. So how can I like add value to this person's day that took the time to read this post? Like, what are they going to walk away from? And if more people told stories from that vantage point, that's when you start seeing the power in it, because that's strategic. It's strategic storytelling. It's making someone feel and empathize and feel like they know you through a story. No other marketing tactic it can do that. And I feel like people think it's fluffy and soft and cute, and it's not. There's no other marketing tool that is as neurologically proven to be that powerful, where you can actually make someone feel how you might feel because they can imagine what it's like to be in your shoes. Like, that's huge. If you can do that, you can sell your product, you can sell your service, because now you have their attention.
Yeah, I love that. I did read the Usher post, and I also subscribed to your newsletter, and you did win an award recently. What was that award?
Oh, I was like, I had to be told I won it. I didn't even know. I had all these people like congratulating me. I'm like, what are they congratulating me? What is this? Yeah, it's I won an Entreprenista like top 100 females in business award. So yeah,
amazing.
I think
you won this award. You didn't even know about the award, but what I think you did so well, and this is why I love following you and learning from you, is you turned it into, I'll call it a post with a carousel, where you were basically like, I didn't have this figured out. I was broke. I was in debt 2017. And you kind of took us on this journey of where you've gone and how you've got into this award, because I think a lot of people think, I can never win these kinds of awards. Who am I at the end of the day? But it's a journey, and you can do it too if you show up in a certain way and think about it strategically.
Well, yeah, and if I kind of break down that post and that story, here's the thing. For the most part, when you see awards, and we can be honest here, this is like a safe space.
Yes.
When you see someone, and let's just let's say someone in your industry, maybe even someone like, I don't want to say competitor, but someone that like is in your niche.
Yes.
If you see someone that has an award and puts it out there, what is your first initial feeling? Be honest.
You get a little bit of a jealousy. I feel like you're like, why that person and not me? I think.
Yeah. No. Like you're being, of course, like a lot of time when you have people, and we've all been there, you get that twinge, right? When you're like, oh, I shouldn't feel like this, like, oh, but you kind of like, yeah, it's human nature. So, but it is very important that we self promote, right? So how do you self
So
promote
important.
without making people feel bad? So when I did this post of my award, I recognize that most of the time someone is going to see this in my feed and they, number one, they're not going to care. Why should they? It's an industry award that they know nothing about. And number two, I might actually make someone feel bad. And guess what? Making someone feel bad is not going to make them want to be a part of my circle. It's not going to make them want to like buy my services or come to my workshop. I don't want to make people feel bad. I want to make people feel good, and I want to make people feel like it's possible. So when I was announcing my award, I came into the announcement of understanding how sometimes I feel when I see people win awards in my industry, and sometimes I get a twinge of jealousy. So I made sure to present it in a way that would remove that, right? And that's what, like, it's simple actually, but it's amazing because people don't
Don't
think
do
like
it.
that. Like people are so in their own, like, and I get it. We need to self-promote, or, I'm so humble, I'm so honored. No, you're not. Like, no one believes that you're honored and you're humbled. Like, stop saying those words. Like, it drives me crazy. So anyway, thank you for saying that, because I really think that was a really good example of like how you can bring your audience in and get them rooting for you. And the only reason that someone would root for me and actually be excited that I won this award is because I took them on a little journey and I made them feel the pang and the angst, because we're the same. Like, I get it. Entrepreneurship sucks a lot. It's hard. It's courageous to go after this
Yes.
life. It's a lot easier. I don't think it is, but you can argue that it's easier to get a regular paycheck and have a boss, right? There's yings
Yes.
and yangs to everything. But I'm saying, like, you have to bring someone along on the journey. But the only way to do that is if you are vulnerable yourself and you give of yourself from like a real way, not like a performative way.
Yeah, it's so important. And I think you teach that really well. And I feel like there's people out there that I would say that's not maybe the norm. I think the norm is brag. I won this award. Oh, I am so humbled and honored, but they're just putting it out there for the humble brag or even the brag at the end of the day. But I had a feature on NASDAQ. It was a storytelling feature. And at the end of the day, I mean, it's been like 5 years of hustling and grinding and like putting it together for me to sort of get there at the end of the day. And so I put that in the post, but I like how you say you don't want people to feel jealous of you, or you don't want to honestly make anyone feel bad. You want to take them on the journey of celebrating you. And when I saw you won that award, I was like, yeah, Patrice, she deserves that. That's awesome. So that's how I felt on the other side.
Thank you. I know, I appreciate that. And like, and that was the goal, because I get it. I'm the same way. I see people winning awards in my space. I'm like, oh, like I just immediately just for that lizard brain, half a second, it like hits you in that pain place, and you kind of have to like shake it off and reset and like, all right, well, it's your brain. It's your brain that keeps us small, right? It keeps us thinking, well, why would we do that? Or we can't do that. I mean, it's just, we're fighting against biology, right? It's very, yeah. So.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we're a little over time, so I just want to tell everyone here how they can get in touch with you, talk about any upcoming workshops that you have. Would love to sort of hear what that is.
Yeah, so I have 3 main homes. LinkedIn is like is kind of like a starter home, but I'm getting there. So I'm available on LinkedIn. I am most active on my Instagram. Patrice Polzer, at Patrice Polzer, both handles. And yeah, like honestly, I have lots of different ways to work with me. I have live classes. I have cohorts where I incubate entrepreneurs and we write your story together and we put it to video. And my next, I have a pilot workshop coming up in 2 weeks. I'm so excited to teach. And the whole workshop answers this question: but what do I say? Or what do I share? Or I don't know what to share. I'm going to give you my process and I'm going to show you how you can actually simplify on understanding and looking at your own life and understanding how that can relate to your business and what you're trying to do. And the workshop's only $47 because it's a pilot. So I'm testing some new concepts out, and that's going to be run live March 13th and 14th. You can also get the recording. And so that is in my LinkedIn, not LinkedIn, my Instagram. Actually, oh my God, I can put it here. Wait,
drop it in the chat. Yes, I will be there. I forget what day I'm attending. Either I think it's the 14th maybe, but I also took your AI storytelling class, which I think is more of an
it won't let me LinkedIn for some reason. Oh, wow.
Okay, we'll drop it in the event page so you can share it there.
I put it in your private chat. Maybe you could drop it in. But
I got it. All right, let's see.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for doing this. I think it is so important for everyone to sort of understand. Get over yourself, I would say, and put yourself out there. But there's obviously more psychology and marketing and sort of strategy that goes into it. But we are in a awesome time, I think, in 2024 that we have the privilege of putting ourselves out there. And I personally believe that personal branding and getting your face out there and doing video is a huge key differentiator. And I just want to say, I don't think it's too late for people. I mean, I'm just starting on the bandwagon in 2023. I feel like it is still in its sort of incubation. And so there's so much greenery for us to go up from here. But I think you just have to start somewhere at the end of the day.
You're never too late because you're you, right? So even if you get on, it's like no one is you with your thoughts and your personality. So it's never going to be too late because like we're not trying to mimic everyone else that's already out there. Like that's not what we do here. So it is not too late at all. And going on video is the only way to truly shorten, not to get all like lingo-y, but the like, no trust factor. Talking, seeing the person's face is a lot easier to hide behind an email. It's easy to even hide behind a nice photo with a nice social media caption. But when you have to show up and talk and you have to put your face to your video, your mouth and speak with your own brain, that is a lot harder to hide behind. And so that's why if you can do that and get comfortable with that, you will see the results quicker of being able to find your people quicker. Being a good writer, not everyone can do that. And that also can take a long time, where video is a lot quicker.
Awesome. So just a few comments because we didn't get there. Stephanie Blair said, love how authentic you both are. We got a lot of comments from Monica here. Storytelling is absolutely a learned skill. The mission is getting comfortable with discomfort. That's actually one of my mantras. And some LinkedIn users said great storytelling points to highlight on LinkedIn. So we have a lot going on. Great show we got, and everyone can look for Patrice's upcoming course. Thank you so much. And we so appreciate hearing what you have to say.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.